What's going on, guys? Hope that you guys are all having an amazing Sunday. Today it is July 13th, 8:27 p.m. here in Arizona, and quickly wanted to just break down a series of stocks that you guys might want to pay attention to this week. When it comes down to the overall NASDAQ market, we are seeing a slight retracement. NASDAQ market is down 0.38%. In my opinion, right? You guys know that I want the market to pull on back. In my opinion, this isn't very much, and it's actually in response to Trump slaps a 30% tariff on Mexico and the EU live updates, right? And this was announced over the weekend. This is the most recent update that we've received with a series of different countries, and the tariff that is set to actually take effect, reciprocal tariffs is what he's calling it, supposed to take effect on August 1st. This is a pushback from the original deadline of July 8th. And I want to remind you, he said that deadline was supposed to be firm, but now the August 1st deadline is firm, but not firm, is literally what he said. So yeah, that's what's moving the market as of right now. I really don't care much about that because I just think that the market is it's built its tolerance, right? When it comes down to these tariffs, because now we kind of understand that Trump is using them as a form of negotiation. He announces them and then he quickly takes them back when they either come to the table to negotiate, or they don't come and markets are dropping, so then he'll take them away. Nonetheless, the thing that I want to pay most attention to right now is the thing that I want to remind you, for those that didn't watch today's earlier video, is that on Tuesday, 1 hour before the market opens, there's a CPI data report. It's an inflation report. And I think that it would be in your best interest to pay attention to this, because if inflation shows to be actually going up in the month of June, and this is actually when all the stuff was going on in the Middle East, if inflation is actually now beginning to go up, and it's showing that these tariffs are inflationary, because originally it's everyone should know that these CPI data reports, these inflation reports, are a lagging indicator, meaning that it takes time for them to actually reflect on the report because it took time for that inflation to get passed down to the consumer. It might not make sense if you don't understand how inflation is tracked and on the month-to-month basis, and how it goes from the producer, gets passed down to the consumer, and then the consumer reports has to actually track it. Nonetheless, it will all begin to make sense on Tuesday. We will see what we add for the new month of June for 2025, and we will remove no inflation for 2024 June. So no matter what, if there's any increase in inflation in the month of June for 2025, that will support the case that inflation is going up and that we will go from core CPI being 2.8%, possibly, right? If we see a 0.2 or a 0.3% increase, we could possibly see inflation jump back up, core inflation jump back up to over 3%. Now, I got a really good question over Instagram, and I think this is where people get confused. They sent me a message and they sent me a screenshot of a video saying, Ricky, why are these people referring to trueflation and that metric of inflation is below 2%? All I have to say to you is that yes, there are different ways that inflation can be tracked. You can pay attention to whatever it is that you think is valuable to you. What I'm here to make you aware of is what the Federal Reserve pays attention to. They pay attention, their favorite measure of inflation is the PCE report. Jerome Powell has said this. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. He has said this. That is their main focus, PCE reports, but also the CPI data reports. In my opinion, Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve do not care what trueflation on TradingView says. What they care about is what is being tracked based off of the Bureau of Labor Statistics for that CPI data report and the PCE report. Again, I just want you to be aware of it. So if inflation does go up on Tuesday and markets react in a negative way, you won't be surprised. But if also inflation comes in lower than what was expected and markets react in a positive way, so you're also not surprised. I think that this CPI data report and the reports moving forward will actually be important more now than before, because inflation wasn't really going up and there wasn't any external variable that was of concern. But now tariffs are. And all the Federal Reserve is waiting for is to see if these tariffs are inflationary. And it takes time, and I get it. It's annoying, it's frustrating, but they need the data. They've said it from the beginning. They are data dependent. It might seem old school, it might seem slow, but that's how they do it. And that's why I'm choosing to pay attention to it, because the market knows that that is what the Federal Reserve pays attention to. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that part of this week. A big focus for myself and for my LPP team is going to be the inflation report on Tuesday, 1 hour before the market opens. I do plan to live stream it for free on my YouTube channel, just like this. And all you literally have to do is drop a thumbs up on this video and subscribe to the channel. The second thing that I want to share with you is, why not talk about it? Bitcoin is up. You guys know that I'm personally not a big supporter of Bitcoin. But in my opinion, if you're going to buy any form of crypto, I think it would make more sense to buy Bitcoin itself than to buy any company that's publicly traded that says that they buy Bitcoin. You know exactly who I'm referring to, right? MSTR, right? If you're going to invest in an asset, invest in the asset itself. That's the best way that I look at it. I think that this is going to be a very interesting week. A lot of you guys know that my team, my LPP team and myself, we don't carry shorts overnight. So when I see Bitcoin push up, it does excite me. Well, first I think about, I'm going to short the life out of this thing when it begins to fall, right? But I have to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? This thing has a lot of momentum right now. It is incredibly bullish. And if the inflation report on Tuesday comes out better than what was expected, that could reignite not just Bitcoin, but the stock market to go to new highs. We have to acknowledge it, right? I can have my own personal opinion about what I want the market to do because of what I think of it, but let's not ignore, don't allow your personal opinion or bias cloud your way of thinking, I think is the best way to put it. It's good to have a level head, right? To think about and talk about both sides. So if markets begin to go up because it's earned it, right? Because if inflation does come in lower than what is expected, I'd be stupid to not go long on coin, to go long on HOOD, right? I wouldn't go long on MSTR, but that's just me, right? I would literally rather go long on HOOD or coin. They seem like much more actual valuable companies. But to each their own, right? There's money to be made. But if inflation comes in higher than what is expected and markets begin to fall, you guys know that I'm just licking my chops to short the life out of MSTR. You guys know, right? And I'm all for it. I want this thing to pump up as much as it possibly can. I want Bitcoin to go to 125, 130. I do not care because first off, no one, man, how do I say this nicely? In my opinion, no one should be encouraging beginners to buy at these levels. The risk to reward just doesn't make sense. You're going to buy it at 120 to sell it at what? 125? Even best case, 130? What's the percent return versus the risk? What if Bitcoin, as it always does, when it does crash, I'm not saying it's going to right now, but what if it does sell off 50%? It always does. And every time that it enters a bear market, what happens then? Again, and anytime that I talk like that, people are always like, Ricky, why are you always spreading FUD? Right? That's the new term that I've learned. I think it's important for beginners in a market full of greed and a market full of hype for there to be a sense of reason. I am never here to tell you that you should sell your position or that you shouldn't buy Bitcoin, because who am I to convince you to not do something you want to do, right? If you're an active trader and you see that Bitcoin's bullish and you hear me talk about the risk and you acknowledge it, but you still think that the reward is worth it, that's the only reason I'm here, right? is for you to acknowledge the risk. So if you do take a loss, it doesn't surprise you. And that's all I'm here to do. I hope that you really see that, right? Where at the end of the day, your guys' buys and my buys and your sells and my sells, we don't influence one another. No, I don't trade lower cap stocks where I get influenced by what other people are doing. I think that's the part that some people are confused about, is that they think that my opinion is what I think has to happen. No, it's just my opinion, just like you have yours, I have mine. And the last thing that I want to see is a beginner to be convinced with all the hype that's happening that they need to buy at 120. And then when and if markets downturn, that they bag hold that position from 120 all the way down to 80, right? And they lose 35%, 40%, just because someone on Twitter told them that Bitcoin was going to the moon. That's all I have to say, right? So I think that this can be a very lucrative week for both the bulls and the bears, depending on what the report says on Tuesday. You guys are all aware of it. And supposedly there's an event or something is what I heard of. And again, I'm not big in the crypto space, so I don't pay too much attention to crypto itself. But supposedly there's an event that's supposed to happen in the next few days, if I'm not mistaken, that is supposed to send Bitcoin to new highs. And if that's the case, I think it's just important to understand what goes up when Bitcoin goes up, right? Again, because I don't trade Bitcoin. So we've talked about it before. Bitcoin is up 1.8% on this given day. We have coin, and coin is up 0.74%. Cool, right? It's important to understand what goes up when Bitcoin goes up, right? To know what influences one another. If Bitcoin begins to drop, then coin will drop most likely as well, as it gets influenced by it. Robinhood is another one. Robinhood goes up as it's up 0.65% during the overnight hours when Bitcoin goes up. But if Bitcoin begins to fall, then Robinhood can begin to fall, right? And do I have MSTR up here? Here we go. MSTR is up 2.86%. Looks incredibly bullish, and it has the condition and the environment to be bullish because Bitcoin is bullish. MSTR is a BS company that buys Bitcoin. So because of Bitcoin's performance, it's bound to go up. And as long as Bitcoin is bullish, then so will MSTR, but vice versa, right? When Bitcoin begins to fall, MSTR is most likely going to be the one that also takes the biggest hit, because all MSTR does is it's known for and recognized for its Bitcoin holdings. So just as it gains a lot of traction and a lot of momentum when Bitcoin is pushing, it will also take the biggest hit when markets begin to downturn. It's just good to understand what goes up and what goes down, right? I think we can all acknowledge that. The unfortunate part about all of this is that markets dropped a little bit, but if you look at NASDAQ, we're kind of testing the same previous support range. There is no break of pattern. There is no aggressive sell-off. Even with the tariff news that we previously talked about, even with this tariff news, I think that the market is really waiting. I think that the market is waiting to see how investors react tomorrow and on Tuesday, how that inflation report comes out. And I think with that, we can get a better judgment of where the market wants to go from here. Because I know I can't be the only one that is kind of just tired of the market consolidating up here, right? There hasn't really been new highs, much progress, not much downside, not much upside. It's kind of just holding there. And if you're not a day trader or a scalper, you've probably felt pretty stagnant with either your portfolio or with your trades. So again, I think it's important to respect these critical moments when reports are about to be released, because that is where we can see these big shifts, these inflection points. Based on what is reported on Tuesday, we can see new highs, or based off of what is reported on Tuesday, we can begin to see the retracement some of us have been waiting for, right? On the 4-hour time frame, there's a lot of pullback potential, but no confirmation of a sell-off just yet. So again, something to pay attention to, something to look forward to on both sides, both if you're a bull or a bear. As long as you respect the trend, there's definitely money to be made. So I wanted to ask you guys, what is it that you guys are paying attention to this week to actively trade? Because again, NASDAQ market is kind of flat right now. And are you going to do your part in waiting for the inflation report to be released? Or are you just on Monday, market open, you're just going balls to the wall? What is it? Oh no, we have someone talking about Oscar. I'm not the biggest fan of, you guys know that, again, my focus is I have a lot of beginners that watch my content. I don't like showing beginners super volatile stocks like this. When a stock goes from $14 all the way up to $23 and it's 60%, right? Oh my gosh, so great. And then it goes up 60% all the way down to 14 and it loses 36%. It's just not my style, right? It's one of the main reasons I don't like crypto, because of its extreme volatility. But the other layer of why I don't like crypto is because every crypto bro always convinces you or tries to convince you why you need to buy crypto. I've never seen any investor or CEO of a publicly traded company have to persuade his investors that they need to invest and buy their stock. If it's valuable, the market will show. But again, crypto just doesn't tend to work that way, right? It's you're either with us or against us. And that type of cult-like following is just not something that I support. But again, who cares what it is that I'm just sharing with you my opinion and why I'm not a fan of it. But if you like it and it's worked well for you, right, there's money to be made. There's a market for you. So be my guest, right? SoFi, please. Yeah, let's go ahead and break that one down. SoFi. SoFi has been an insane stock lately. It's up about 1.5%. Incredibly bullish. Higher highs and higher lows with huge gap ups. It has been bullish, again, on the 1 hour time frame. Consistent higher highs and consistent higher lows. The thing is again, this is just my opinion. Do you think that SoFi is a cheap stock to buy here? Now, just because it's, in my opinion, not cheap, doesn't mean that you need to short it, right? This thing is still bullish. So we need to respect that trend. There is no confirmation of a retracement like it's had before. All I'm here to remind you is of previous patterns. When Snowflake rallied before at $6, it pushed up hard to 18, and then it sold off even harder right back down to 8. So it lost over 50% of its value in a few weeks, and then it gained it back. So if you are holding a position where your average purchase price is up here, I would be, in my opinion, concerned. I would have some form of risk management or exit plan if there begins to be a break of pattern. We don't have any of that yet. There is no rejection or lower lows forming. But remember, it's better to be prepared than it is to be surprised. That's something that we always try to preach to our LPP students that are just getting started and trying to build healthy habits as investors and as traders, right? We talked about Hood already, obviously, right? Because of how crypto is performing. So I do agree with you that if crypto continues to push up, it makes sense on why, as a day trader, if you don't trade crypto like myself, why you would pay attention to possibly going long on Hood, right? Intraday. Bitcoin continues to push up, then it's likely that Hood can continue to push up. My only thing that I'm here to remind you is also don't get Bitcoin's performance right now confused with the stock market. Because remember, crypto is more irrational than the stock market. So although crypto is ignoring tariffs and inflation concerns right now, that's why the NASDAQ market is down, but crypto isn't. So don't get that irrationality confused with Hood is still a publicly traded company under the NASDAQ. So I want to remind you of that. It's good to respect the trend and it's good to understand why they're influencing one another. But Robinhood, once again, is a stock that is publicly traded, not crypto. It's influenced by crypto's performance, but it's still its own company. Good to know, right? Tesla, I personally actually thought that, have you guys seen what Elon is tweeting right now? Have you guys been paying attention to that? I'm not a fan of, man, because it has nothing to do with the stock market, right? So like I try not to get into anything. And I've learned recently, especially, it's like it's best to not comment about things that don't pertain to my niche. I'm good with talking about politics if it influences the market, right? Like that I'm all for. But the whole thing of, it seemed like Elon is now being very outspoken about calling out Trump to release the Epstein files. And I think that if Elon continues this continuous poke for Trump to release the files, Elon reaches the most amount of people than anyone else on X.com. And I think that investors have shown to not like when Elon gets a response from Trump. So I would just be careful. It looks like Tesla's trying to recover from the sell-off that it's had for the past few days. But I want to remind you, the big concern right now with Tesla is the debate and beef that Elon and Trump have with one another. It's so frustrating because it doesn't even have to do with how the company is actually being ran right now or how it's performing fundamentally. It all has to do with, oh no, our CEO is talking crap once again or poking the president of the United States. And I'm not here to say that Elon shouldn't poke Trump if he sees it to be fit. I'm just saying that it's important as a Tesla investor or trader to understand why Tesla's selling off. Tesla, as of right now, in my opinion, is not trading based off of any fundamentals. Because if Tesla was trading based off of any fundamentals, Tesla would be trading at $200 per share. 150. Tesla is not growing as a car company. It's not growing globally. It's not growing internationally. It's not growing at all. And if it loses its EV credits, as Trump has threatened, then in my opinion, fundamentally, it's only bound to do worse. And I get it. Tesla is not just the car company. It's much more than that. But as of right now, its core business is a car company, and even that isn't growing. So you could only ignore that for so long. So my big focus with Tesla this week is unfortunate, but it would be, what is the tone that Elon and Trump have with one another? And if anything negative is said about Elon from Trump, get ready for Tesla to drop. Okay? All right. All right. Let's see. Epstein files? What files? Yeah, I know, right? UNH. UNH has been trading sideways. I think that it's just waiting for an update or a development. It looks like it's found its support. I think that's a great way to put it. If you look at it on the 4-hour, it's trading sideways. It's found its support for now. I think that we are waiting for an update on the investigation that is going on with United Healthcare, because that's the whole reason that it really began to fall, right? It's the CEO was leaving, he was getting replaced, and then they were under investigation. And if the investigation receives good updates, get ready for it to recover, because UNH is a very strong and well-run company. We all know that, right? You guys are aware of that. But the big concern right now is the investigation concern. So if things do get worse, then get ready for another leg down. But as of right now, I would say that this would be a very boring stock to be trying to trade. It's more of a stock that if you're willing to take the risk and you think that the investigation is BS, which I do think it's BS. I think it's going to fall through. I think United Healthcare is too big of a company to fail. It's such a well-oiled machine. You might not like what it does morally, but business-wise, it does things very well. And it looks like the U.S. is just fishing for a case. So eventually, if they run out of time, UNH has a ton of money. They have huge teams of attorneys, where it does suck for now. But if you can tolerate the investigation, who knows? Who knows if this thing can recover back up to 600? Right now we're talking about it at 300, a lot of consolidation. We'll see. But if things do get worse, and if they do find something, and if it doesn't look like they're just fishing, then yeah, maybe we could see another leg down. I'm excited. I'm excited to follow up with UNH, but it's not a stock that I would really focus on this week or right now. In my opinion, it's either a long-term investment or you're either shorting it long-term because you think that it's going to go to zero, right? That's the way that I see it right now. While you're looking at stocks, Bitcoin just passed the 120K. We're aware of that. We talked about Bitcoin the first moment that, look at this. As soon as I started the live stream, we literally talked about Bitcoin and crypto for the first 5 to 10 minutes. Bitcoin pushing to new highs for no reason. And that's always been my thing. It's just a lot of hype, a lot of momentum. Ride the wave. I just hope that you do your part in taking profits when it makes sense to you. I really do. I gain nothing by seeing you lose. So if you're making money as Bitcoin pushes, great. I just would hate to see that you get greedy, you don't take profits, and you bag hold that position all the way back down to $80, $70, or $60,000. Because we all know that when crypto crashes, and it's not an opinion, it's a fact, it crashes 70% on average. And if you don't believe me, you can ask ChatGPT or you can just look at its history. Every time crypto crashes, it crashes at least 70%. So just be aware of it. Bitcoin is a good company. Yeah. Hymns. All right, we'll finish it off with this one. Beautiful. Hymns is up 1%, 5-minute time frame. Yeah, it looks like it's up about 1% during the overnight hours. The thing that happened with Hymns recently is that it had a partnership that fell through. And once that partnership fell through, I think that they began to poke holes in all the hype that it had. And I said this before, I thought that Hymns was an incredibly hyped up company. I mean, just look at the performance itself. It pumps, it dumps. It pumps, it dumps. It pumps, it dumps. It pumps, it dumps. Again, some people say that I just like to spread FUD. I like to say that I just like to look at previous patterns. And I think patterns tend to repeat themselves, but I agree that they don't always have to. So anytime that I see a stock incredibly overbought based off previous patterns with a lot of downside potential, I like to make videos about it because I like to warn beginners to not fall, in my opinion, for a trap. I would hate to see any beginner buy up here because someone told them that it was going to go to the moon because of the weather, and then it ends up crashing and losing 50%. So just be cautious. And as soon as a company begins to fall apart fundamentally, it loses partnerships, it doesn't look as invincible, and then that's when the lower highs and lower lows begin to form. So I'm very excited to follow up with Hims. I think that right now it's at a tricky situation where the profit potential is just as much as the downside risk. And I think a lot of it will have to do with overall, market condition. I think that markets, if they continue to make new highs overall, I think that it will give Hims the environment to continue to excel. But I think as soon as markets begin to downturn, this thing will go back down to $25 to $30 per share. I would not be surprised by any means if it begins to trade back at $30 per share. Because again, it's just a hyped up stock. It has huge pumps and people make a ton of money, but then it dumps really hard. It's really useful to just look at different time frames so you get different perspectives. That it's not just people trying to spread fear. It's people just making you aware of what this stock tends to do. But I agree with you. Just because it's done it in the past doesn't mean that it has to continue to do it. As long as you're aware, if you're okay with the risk of this thing selling off to 30, 25, if you're okay with that and you acknowledge it and you have a plan of action, you're an adult. You can do whatever it is that you want. I promise you. You put in your mortgage on this, and if you lose it all, it doesn't affect me. Or if you double your money and this thing goes to $100 per share, it doesn't influence me, right? I don't hold this stock. I'm not shorting it. I don't care for it, right? It's just the trade to me. It's not personal. So I hope that you know that when I talk about stocks or I share my opinion, it's truly just that. It's just an opinion, and most often than not, I'm just and maybe it's too much for people, but when I see that there's so much greed in this market, when there's so much momentum but nothing to support it, it's not that I don't want to see people win. It's that I don't want you to be surprised when markets begin to sell off due to there being nothing fundamentally holding the markets up there. So again, Fartcoin is pumping. I'm sure it is. I appreciate your guys' time. I'm really excited to see what this week has to offer. Bitcoin is a big focus for a lot of people this week. I don't trade crypto, so I'm just going to be focused on crypto stocks. Hood, MSTR, and Robinhood, and Coin are the three. And based off of Bitcoin's performance, that will determine if I go long or if I go short. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in tomorrow's live trading session. But most importantly, the thing that I don't want you to forget is that tariffs and inflation reports this week on Tuesday, 1 hour before the market opens, are a big focus for us traders that actually pay attention to economic data. So if that's something that you want to tune into to be a little bit more aware of why the Federal Reserve is doing what it is that they're doing, we'd love to invite you for our CPI data report live stream. All we ask you to do is to subscribe, and don't forget to drop a thumbs up. I appreciate your time. Hope to see you for tomorrow's live trading session. If you want to tune on in, don't forget, second link in the description down below, and we'll see you at market open for our live session. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note.